Very briefly, on behalf of the Assembly Republican Conference, first I'd like to point out several of the major items that we disagree with Governor Cuomo on in his executive budget. Free college tuition, the consolidation plan for municipal entities, the online sales tax, and the underfunding of education and also libraries. The Assembly Republican Conference has been talking, not just talking, but suggesting public policies that we believe I want to highlight that we've been talking about and will continue to do so. But I would also say the good news is that I've seen some of these proposals put forth by both majorities in both houses, which I think is a great sign. And again, not in any particular order, but certainly I think are stepping forward and providing additional financial assistance for our direct care and home care workers throughout the state is critical. Obviously, in business, from an economic development perspective, focusing on jobs, and I think some of those categories that have been talked about is workers' compensation reform, certainly the tax, fine, and harassmentality of some of our state agencies. The regulatory environment definitely needs an overhaul, and certainly making a specific incentives for small business, which we believe are critical. As I mentioned earlier, I think we need to increase the financial support in education across the state, all educational institutions and our special ed folks and libraries. Certainly in terms of the foundation aid formula, the only thing I'd say about that is we just need to update the information and the data that the formula is predicated on, because it's really outdated information, and I think a fair distribution of aid with up-to-date data is very much in line. Certainly we've talked about, and I know the two majorities have talked about as well, is certainly getting rid of the rebate program as it pertains to STAR and going back to the program that worked very effectively because this program has been an absolute disaster. We continue to push for economic development oversight, and that's the distribution of taxpayer funds for our economic development efforts through the state. We've put forth several proposals to have greater accountability and have participation in with the State Comptroller's Office and the State Attorney General because we believe in full transparency and accountability for how taxpayer dollars are being spent on economic development. Certainly in terms of infrastructure and investment in infrastructure, we totally support, been talking about this, and we've also been at the forefront of increased CHIPS funding, which is critical, again, as part of our aid to municipalities across the state. From a higher education perspective, and again, in contrast to the governor's proposal about free tuition, we put forth a full tuition assistance plan and enhancement, as well as helping students with debt and interest payments as well, and certainly also providing help for our graduate students, but utilizing the tuition assistance program, which has worked effectively. So let's just enhance it, raise the income levels, and certainly I think it'll be a more effective program. And the last two things I want to mention, when the governor's talked about the consolidation plan in municipalities, we believe the best approach is really focusing in on those costs that New York State puts on school districts and municipalities. The inside word that we always use down here is unfunded mandates. For the people back at home, that means the things that Albany tells you to do and tells you to pay for to local governments and municipalities, but doesn't provide enough assistance to help pay for them. That should be our focus, and hopefully that will be as the final budget negotiations take place over the next 2 weeks. And certainly last but not least, in terms of major topics, we believe it's time for ride sharing throughout the entire state. We have it in New York City. We need to have it comprehensively across the entire state, upstate, and Long Island. This is a service that residents are clamoring for all across this state. I can honestly tell you, everywhere I've traveled in the state, people keep asking me, when are we going to get ride sharing? When are we going to get ride sharing? And I say, hopefully this year and hopefully within this budget. So with all those factors on the table, we're looking forward to working with everyone, including the governor, to bring a very solid budget for 2017-2018. Thank you.